Hello, my soul family. How are you all? And I hope you are doing great, wonderful, amazing, and safe wherever you are in the world. I welcome you all in my channel. Thank you so much for liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel, for giving me lots of love. And I am very glad that I help you out in some manner. If you have not subscribed yet to the channel, then please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And you can also let me know in the comment section if you want to tell me anything, if you want to share with me anything. So let's start today's video. So this is part number 5 of multidimensional anatomy. We are doing a series in which we are learning what are the multidimensional structure, the different blueprints, the original template upon which this whole universe has been created. For those who have not watched from part number 1 to part number 4, I'm going to add a link in the description box, so you can check that video from the description box. So let's start today's video. In this video, which is part number 5, we are going to know about what are the partiki grids, as well as we are going to talk about what are the keylons and the keylon codes and the morphogenetic field. Before, I have also made a morphogenetic field video, and I'm also going to add a link for that also. So let's start today's video. So in the previous video, we get to know that what are the partiki, partike and particum. The partiki, partike and particum are the three primary units that every other particle and waveform is built upon. Basically, these are the building blocks of the universe. These are the God's energy, the template of matter, the emanation from Akasha, and these are also called as the primal substance or the blueprint upon which the matter builds upon. So basically, these are actually called as units of consciousness. Okay, so and we also get to know that the partiki in the energy term, it is the first unit, the thought of vibration. It is the smallest unit, okay, which is the antimatter, okay, and they are the building blocks of morphogenetic field. Now what is happening here is that once this partiki, partike, particum has been created, the God's energy has been created, the other step is that the structures start take place. Okay, so the first structure which creates from the partiki, partike, particum and the manu mana era, or we can say the first structure which is being created from the God's consciousness and the God's energy, is the partiki grid. So what is partiki grid? In very simple terms, the partiki grid is the fabric. It's the carpet of light. Okay, it's the fabric of morphogenetic field. Okay, because after partiki grids, the next structure is going to made is morphogenetic field. Okay, so the partiki grid, what is the partiki grid means? So basically the fabric of morphogenetic field structure, the partiki units form together, they group to form together the interwoven strands. Okay, so basically the partiki grid is composed of partiki units. Okay, and partiki grid is a grouping of partiki grouped by like polarization. That means particum units will group together. Okay, and the partike will group together to form more complex structures. So the first thing they will form is strands. Okay, as you can see that here we can see the strands, the partiki strands, the particum strands and the partike strands. So the first thing they form is strands. And what are these strands? Okay, these strands are actually the electrotonal energy units. Okay, and these strands group together to form the grids, which are the carpets of light, which is made of little fibers of light, and that is actually the unified field of energy that exists within each everything. So basically, in very simple terms, the partiki grid is the carpet of light, the unified field of energy, which is made up of little fibers of light, the electromagnetic fiber of partiki grids. Now let's take an example. As you can see in the picture, in the TV, we can see the partiki grids. If you have seen this picture when the network is not coming in the TV, okay, then you can see there are partiki grids. You can see these strands, you can see these carpet of light, the unified field of light, which is made up of little fibers of light, which are actually the horizontal and vertical lines. Okay, the carpet of light. So the horizontal lines, okay, the horizontal strands is called as the partiki, okay, and the vertical lines is called as particum, and then they group together to form a carpet of light. Okay, so basically the particle units interweave and form a fabric of scalar waves and energy field that pulls in more and more of the consciousness of God. The circulation of that energy takes place through particle grids. So for doing the circulation, okay, of energy, of the God's energy, that is going to happen through particle grids, and the particle grids is actually composed of particle units, okay, which is actually the grouping of partike particum, which at first they make the strands of electronic energy. Okay, now we understand that what is particle grids. In our system, there is particum grid, which is made up of particum particles, and in the parallel universe, it is a particle grid. So once the particle grid are formed, then comes the next step, which is the keylons. So basically, a keylon is composite of ultra micro electrotonal energy units called particle, and keylons group with other keylons to form dimensionalized crystallized structures of energy that exist as a base morphogenetic form holding templates behind and within all matter forms, particles, and consciousness. Keylons compose the frequency fields of sound and light upon which the entire cosmic matrix is structured. The unified field of cosmic energy is composed of groups of crystalline keylons and also compose the morphogenetic template of electrotonal and electromagnetic energy upon the which the human DNA, the genetic code, the physical body, the bioenergetic chakra system, and multidimensional aspects of consciousness, the spiritual body, are built. Keylons are dimensionalized particle composite forms that form within and around the fabric of the particle grids. They are more and more particle groups form together to clusters. So basically the keylons are called what are the meaning of keylons in very simple terms? So the keylons are more and more particle grouped together to form clusters, and these clusters are called keylons. They group together to forming a very specific geometrical patterns that follow the mathematical laws that apply to the way the dimensions are structured. They group like crystals, that is a crystal type structure with a definite form and shape. They are like pieces of dust in a fabric of garment if you view it through a microscope, and that's how they are in the particle grid. So keylons are the first step in the transition from the pure consciousness to the pre-matter substance. Keylons are the level of our consciousness and our beings that exist between pure consciousness and pre-matter substance. They look like microscopic crystal structures composed of millions and millions of particle units in just one little keylon. Triphase groupings of particle units form patterns of scalar wave and tritone wave interrelationships that create crystallization of energy called as keylons. And groupings of keylons continue to accrete, forming complex keylon arrangement are called keylon codes, through which the manifestation template is progressively built upon the antimatter through the various stages of matter density, beginning with the pre-matter substance, the first density of liquid silica hydroplasmic energy to emerge into externalization forms. So keylons, now we know that the keylons are the 3D carriers of consciousness form. Okay, keylons are dimensionalized particle composite forms that form within and around the fabric of particle grids. Okay, so as you can see in the picture, these are called as the particle grids, and here we can see that this is called as keylons. Keylons are the crystal clusters. Okay, keylons are the crystal clusters which has been found by more and more particle grouped together to form these clusters, and these clusters are actually called as keylons. So we can also called as crystal clusters. So keylons follow a certain geometrical mathematical laws that apply to the way that the dimensions are structured in the whole of the universe, and there is a set order to them. Okay, they look like crystal, the crystalline structures within the definite form and shape to them. And keylon is the first step in the transition from consciousness to the pre-matter substance. So as you can see that the keylons look like the crystal clusters composed of particle grids embedded on the grids as they build up on the grids. Keylons are like the voltage and the volts of consciousness. The amount of keylons in a dimension will determine how much consciousness it can carry. Okay, keylons will direct how many strands of DNA they are capable of forming. If our template of identity has only 12 keylons, we will only have enough keylons to make one DNA strand. So for 12-dimensional biological being, we need a minimum 144 keylons in a template. The keylon build up to form the matter, the atomic structure of everything. So keylons are basically three-dimensional form of light and sound waves. Okay, so as now we know that the dimension 1 is having 12 keylons, dimension 2 is having 24 keylons, dimension 3 is having 36 keylons, dimension 4 is having 48 keylons, dimension 5 is having 60 keylons, dimension 6 is having 72 keylons, dimension 7 is having 84 keylons, dimension 8 is having 96 keylons, dimension 9 is having 108 keylons, dimension 10 is having 120 keylons, and dimension 11 is having 132 keylons. In the same way, dimension 12 is having 144 keylons. So for 12th dimension, the 12 strand DNA template, we must have 144 keylons, or the 12th dimension, for the 12th dimension there must be 144 keylons. Okay, now let's talk about what is the meaning of keylon codes. Okay, so the keylon codes are the complex groupings of keylons that direct the contour, the shape of energy upon which the forms are built. Particle grids set the base forms in the energy. Keylons add more substance, okay, to form, and the keylon codes form the flash out, okay, and flash out the energy structure upon which the particles will manifest. They direct the flow of energy particle units through form into specialized patterns, and they are the complex patterns of frequency, okay, electrotonal energy, and they formed into interwoven geometrical crystalline patterns that are the templates of living light and sound. And they are the living because they are conscious, and we are conscious because we are composed of keylons and particle. So these are the living light and sound patterns, okay, that our subatomic particles build up on, and they are the final step between energy consciousness and pre-matter substance. So they link the keylons into the pre-matter substance, and that's where the matter solidity or the density starts to happen. They set the patterns for the DNA and the body rhythms also. So what controls the patterns that created that DNA in the first place is the keylon codes and the keylons and the particle beneath them. So these are the foundation units of substances. As we evolve upward in the higher dimensions, we are actually assembling into our particle grids, our personal particle grid that our body and consciousness is built on. So more and more complex consciousness is built. So more and more complex forms of keylons codes a person particle grid has, the more consciousness you will be able to bring into that form. You can either break down the keylon codes, which will make us de-evolve, and our genetic code will fall apart. So now we know that if we are having more keylon codes, if we are building more keylon codes, we are going to have high consciousness, we will evolve our higher DNA genetic code. But if we are having a less keylon codes, if we are breaking our keylon codes, if we are tearing down our keylon codes, then we are having low consciousness, then we are de-evolving. So either we can build more and more keylon codes and evolve, or we can tear down the keylon codes and have low consciousness and de-evolve. The more we bring in your anti-double, your double version, your anti-particle self, or infuse with your double, you are changing your those particum into partike, which is the original pattern. You are lessening the density of upper matter forms. This is how dimensional ascension occurs, the spiritual and biological evolution. So, keylons are basically the 3D carriers of consciousness force, which are actually made up of particle grids, and the particle grids are actually made up of particle units. Okay, okay, and particle units are actually the energy of God, the consciousness of God, the substances. So now we know that the keylons are actually the voltage, the volts of consciousness. The amount of keylons, whatever is there in a dimension, will determine how much consciousness it will carry. In the same way, keylons direct how many strands of DNA we are capable of forming. Okay, if our template of identity is having 12 keylons, then we will have enough keylons to make one DNA strand, and for making the 12 DNA strand, we must have 144 keylons. Okay, so the keylons are dimensionalized particle composite forms, okay, and that form within and around the fabric of particle grids. These are actually the crystal clusters. These are actually the 3D carriers of consciousness force. These are actually the worlds of consciousness. Okay, and there is a set order to them. They look like crystal, the crystalline structure with a definite form and shape to them, and it is the first step. The keylons is the first step in the transition from the consciousness to the pre-matter substance. Now let's talk about the next thing, which is the morphogenetic field. We have already discussed about the morphogenetic before also, that what is the morphogenetic field. Okay, so in very simple terms, the morphogenetic field is the scalar grid, which is made up of interwoven particle grids, which govern the form of matter manifestation and evolution of biology and our consciousness. Okay, so morphogenetic field is the template of creation upon which the matter and event and everything is going to manifest. Okay, for manifesting any matter, we require that template, and that template is the morphogenetic field. Okay, so the morphogenetic field is made up of interwoven particle grids, which are the electrotonal units of consciousness, out of which the particle grids create standing wave pattern scalar wave grids, which hold the form of consciousness within dimensionalized manifestation. Morphogenetic fields are thus scalar grids that form in a specific ordered interrelationship. Morphogenetic field govern the form of matter, manifestation, and evolution of biology and consciousness. Morphogenetic field mechanics thus hold the key to the mastery of physical reality and bio-spiritual evolution. So morphogenetic fields are the scalar grids that are built upon minute patterns of light, sound, and electromagnetism. They are directly affected by light, sound, and electromagnetism. Each thought we think creates an electromagnetic signature of energy within the morphogenetic field, which either serves to raise or lower the vibrational rate of the body and the consciousness. So the thought, the qualities, and externalized sound and light, electromagnetism, and vibration also directly affect the morphogenetic field. Sound hold the power that exists within the wave spectra we perceive as sound, and each day we are saturated with sounds from our environment and also from the inner sounds of our own thoughts and emotion and reactive. I am word programs set the powerful electromagnetic programs within the morphogenetic crystal body. We also called as crystal body. The morphogenetic field is also called as crystal body. So inside body there is a morphogenetic field, and the morphogenetic field is basically a manifestation template. Behind every matter, every body in the time matrix, there is a template, and that in the beginning there is a template. So in this beginning template, which is made up of keylons, which is the crystallization of frozen light, the primal substance. So the crystallization of the crystalline template of light spectra, it includes the light spectra, the sound frequencies, and electromagnetism, and all together they made up of morphogenetic field. So every physical object matter is manifested in the hologram universe, and in this hologram, for projecting anything, there is a instruction set, and for that instruction set there is a mathematical program for that object, okay, to manifest, and that is coming from the morphogenetic fields. For example, what is the light, color, sound, frequency, shape, symbol, thought, DNA records the life experiences. Okay, so this is actually the manifestation template, the morphogenetic field, which is actually made up of partiki grids, which is actually a scalar grid. Okay, the scalar grid is the morphogenetic field. Now, so the morphogenetic field is the thought form field. So now we get to know that how first there was, in the beginning there was a God. In the beginning the God wants to create. From that from the God wants to create, there was a void. Then there was an intention to create. So the intention was the love. Then comes the God primal forces, which is the Manu Mana era, and then comes the God primal substances, which is the Patikai, Patike, Patikam. Then comes the structures, which is the Patikai grids, which are actually the interwoven fabric of morphogenetic field, or interwoven scalar grid. Okay, they are actually made up of keylons and keylon codes, and then comes the morphogenetic field. So now after the morphogenetic fields, there is Kathara grid. Okay, so in the next video we are going to talk about the Kathara grid. What are the Kathara grid? Okay, what is the meaning of Kathara grid, and what is the original Kathara grid? What is the artificial flower of life, or artificial Kathara grid, which is also called as the Kabbalah? Okay, we are going to talk about that, and also we are going to talk about the Eka Veka system. What and how many Kathara grids is there in one universe, and in one time matrix, in 115 dimensional time matrix. We are going to talk about that also. I hope you understand the meaning of keylons, the keylon codes, and the morphogenetic field, as well as the particle grids. Sending you lots of love, healing, and happy energies to all my soul family who are watching my video. Take care of yourself, and I will see you all soon.